Actually, you were not born broken, you were born with confidence until the world told you not to trust yourself. Somewhere along the way, actually you started playing swatting your gut, staying quiet, watching others win. But guess what? That version of you, that hesitant, uncertain, actually barely hanging on version is a lie you've been sold. And today we're burning that lie to the ground. This is your moment to reset everything. Mostly no more overthinking, no more waiting for approval. This is the confidence reset. A straight up, actually no BS path to rebuild your belief in yourself so deeply and no one can shake it again. Let's go. Actually, you're not enough. That phrase is a virus, and it's infected more people than any disease ever has. It doesn't hit you all at once. Actually, it seeps in quietly, slowly, until one day you stop trusting yourself. You stop speaking up in meetings. You hold back the truth. Actually, you scroll past your own ideas, watching everyone else win, wondering why you can't seem to start. It's not that you're lazy or untalented. Actually, it's that somewhere along the way someone taught you to doubt your own worth. Actually, maybe it started with a teacher who told your dream was unrealistic. Maybe it was a parent who meant well but only pointed out your flaws. Actually, lately it was your sense of value or a job you didn't get that convinced you'd never be enough. Hey, confidence doesn't die overnight. It gets chipped away one insult, one failure, one rejection at a time. Actually, and because no one teaches us how to wield it, we start wearing the doubt like a second skin. It becomes familiar, normal. Actually, we start mistaking fear for wisdom and shrinking for humility. Most people don't even realize they're living inside a lie. Actually, they say things like, I'm just not confident, like it's a personality trait carved in stone. But it's not. It's conditioning. Actually, you've been conditioned to believe you can't. You've been taught to wait, to hold back, to not be too much. That's not humility. Actually, that's programming, and if it was programmed into you, it can be reprogrammed out. You weren't born afraid. Watch any toddler. They stumble. Actually, they fall, they laugh, and they try again. They're not embarrassed. They don't care who's watching. That's raw confidence. That's you. Actually, before the world got its hands on you. So let's get one thing straight. You weren't born broken. You were born with fire. Actually, what happened is that you let the world have fire out one drop of doubt at a time. And now your job isn't to find confidence. Actually, it's to remember it. You've got evidence in your past. Moments when you showed up strong, when you said the thing, took the leap, actually, faced the fear and survived. The Gwen has to filter those moments out and highlight the failures. It's called the negativity bias, actually. And it's real. It's why you randomly comment more than the 50 kind ones. It's why one loss can erase 5 wins. Actually, your mind isn't broken. It's trying to protect you. But in doing so, it's suffocating your growth. The real danger isn't that you'll fail. Actually, the real danger is that you'll start believing the lie that you can't change, that this is just how you are. That's the trap. Actually, that's what keeps people stuck for decades, living quiet lives of frustration, watching others live the life they were too afraid to chase. Actually, but here's the truth, the only thing with you and unstoppable confidence is the decision to reject that lie. To see it, name it, actually, and burn it down. You don't need to become someone else. You need to strip away everything you were never meant to carry. The doubt, the shame, actually, the watered down version of yourself you present to keep people comfortable. You don't need more motivation. You need a reset. Actually, who you really are underneath all the fear. Confidence doesn't come from being perfect. Actually, it comes from being honest. So if you've been feeling lost, stuck, unsure, good. That means your awareness is waking up. Actually, that means your reset has already begun. That means is often misunderstood. People think it's something you're born with, actually like having green eyes or being tall. But the truth is, confidence is a skill, just like learning to drive, speak a new language, or lift weights. Actually, you're not born knowing how to lift 300 pounds or run a business. You train for it. You show up, you practice, and over time it builds. Actually, Confidence works the exact same way, but the reason most people never develop it is because they're waiting to feel ready before they take action. Actually, that's backwards. Confidence isn't the fuel for action, it's the result of it. Actually, think about the first time someone recorded their voice for a podcast or made a YouTube video. It was awkward. Their voice trembled. Actually, they hated how they looked. Pressed upload anyway. Then they did it again and again. 20 episodes later. Actually, they sound like a natural. Not because they were born with charisma, but because they did it badly enough, often enough. Actually, that the nerves faded and the skill took over. Every time they hit record, they were training their confidence. Actually, each repetition chipped away at the fear. Most people never get to that point because they mistake discomfort for a sign that they're not ready. But discomfort isn't a warning, it's a workout. That nervous feeling in your chest, the tightness in your throat, actually, the urge to procrastinate, those are signs you're stepping into growth. Confidence comes when you build a history of doing the things scared. Actually, that's how you prove to yourself that you can handle it. And once you realize that, you start to see fear differently. Not as something to avoid, actually, but as a signal you're right where you should be. Action is the antidote to insecurity. Actually, you don't get confident by reading more self-help books or visualizing yourself as a winner. You get confident by doing the reps, starting ugly. Actually flat, learning, improving, growing. The more you act, the less power fear has over you. Actually, people think they leak before they start, but belief comes after the behavior. You show up even when you don't feel ready. Actually, you move forward even when your legs shake, and over time you become the kind of person who doesn't let fear call the shots. Actually, there's a reason people who overcome challenges often seem so solid, so grounded. It's because they've collected evidence, real, actually, lived proof that they can successively live it. That's the real currency of confidence, not fake hype, not empty affirmations. Actually, but memory, experience, reps. It's not about telling yourself you're confident. Actually, it's about stacking enough small wins that your brain starts to believe you. One of the fastest ways to build confidence is by taking messy, actually imperfect action, or waiting until the can is perfect, not until the camera is better, or the lighting is good, or the logo is just right. Actually, that perfectionism is fear wearing a mask. What actually moves the needle is momentum. It's doing the thing, reviewing the results, actually, and doing it again, this time better. And if you keep doing that long enough, you become dangerous. Not because you're fearless, actually, but because you've stopped waiting to feel ready. Confidence isn't this loud, cocky energy. It's quiet. It's earned. It shows up in how you word it, how you speak, how you make decisions without asking for permission. But it only comes when you've done the work, actually, and the work isn't glamorous. It's boring, repetitive. It's filming when no one's watching, speaking up when your voice shakes, actually asking when you might get rejected. These moments don't look heroic, but they're everything. They're the reps. And with enough reps, actually, you stop performing confidence and start living it. Actually, the loudest voice stopping you from being who you're meant to be isn't from the outside. It's from within. It's that quiet, actually, persistent critic in your head that whispers, "You're not good enough." Every time you step toward something new, actually, it shows up when you're about to speak your mind. It shows up when you consider sharing your idea, posting your first video, or asking for more. Actually, that voice sounds convincing because it's familiar. It sounds like logic. It sounds like self-protection. Actually, but what it really is fear in disguise. It's the inner critic, and it's a liar. You weren't born with that voice. It was built, slowly, over years. Each time you were laughed at in school. Each time someone told you to be realistic. Actually, each time you failed and made you feel small for even trying. The critic was built to protect you from pain, from rejection. Actually, but now, it's doing the opposite. It's keeping you stuck. It's convincing you to stay quiet, to play it safe, to aim low. Actually, and because it speaks in your own voice, you believe it. But that voice isn't truth. It's just programming, and programming can be changed. Actually, the first step to shutting now that is awareness. Most people go through their day listening to their thoughts like they're facts. Actually, they think, I'll probably fail, and accept it. They think, I'm not interesting, and stay quiet. But your thoughts are not facts. Actually, they are habits, and just like any habit, they can be broken. The inner critic survives because you never challenge it. Actually, you've let it speak unchecked for too long. Now it's time to interrupt it, to catch it mid-sentence and ask, is that actually true? Start by listening for the patterns. Notice when you feel doubt creeping in, right before a big moment. Actually, right, you're about to take action. Write down what the voice says. Literally, put it on paper. Actually, then look at those words like they came from a stranger. Would you believe them? Would you let someone talk to your best friend that way? Actually, probably not. So why you let yourself get bullied by your own brain? Once you've captured those thoughts, rewrite them. Replace every lie with a truth. I'm not qualified becomes, I'm learning and growing every day. People will judge me becomes, some will. Actually, but the why can one's this isn't toxic positivity. It's mental strength. It's refusing to let fear write your story. Actually, some days the voice will be louder than others, especially when you're tired, stressed, or pushing your limits. That's normal. Actually, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're stepping outside your comfort zone. Actually, and that's where the critic screams loudest, right at the edge of growth. But here's what you need to know. Actually, the inner critic has no power unless you agree with it. You get to decide which thoughts get to stay. You get to choose what you believe. Actually, building confidence doesn't mean silencing all doubt. It means learning to hear the doubt, recognize it, and act anyway. Actually, you can't wait until the voice disappears. You have to move forward with it in the background, like static on a radio. Over time, as you take more action, the critic gets quieter, not because it stops talking, but because you stop listening. Actually, you stop letting that actually this is a process. You'll catch the voice more quickly with practice. Actually, you'll replace lies with truth easy. Eventually, you'll build a new default. One that doesn't tear you down but builds you up. Actually, one that cheers you on instead of holding you back. That's when the shift happens. Not when fear disappears, but when you stop giving it the mic. Actually, the voice in your head isn't always your friend. In fact, for most people, it's their worst enemy. It's the voice that says you'll mess it up. Actually, that you're too old, too late, not smart enough, not attractive enough. It's the one that second guesses your choices, actually overanalyzes your flaws and makes you hesitate right when you need to move. That voice is the inner critic, and it's been with you for a long time. Actually, you've gotten so used to hearing it that you've stopped noticing it. But it's there controlling the way you walk into rooms, actually hold conversations, pursue your goals, and see yourself. The inner critic is sneaky. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It uses your own tone, actually your own language and your own memories against you. It tells you that you're being realistic, when really you're just scared. Actually, it tells you not to get your hopes up, not to aim too high, not to draw too much attention. It disguises itself as logic. Actually, but logic doesn't belittle you, logic doesn't insult you. That's fear pretending to be helpful. That's the critic keeping, now what can I do that actually else safe, but slowly eats away at your potential. Actually, look at what the inner hate says isn't even yours. It's a collection of past voices. A teacher who embarrassed you when you got an answer wrong. Actually, a parent who praised perfection but shamed mistakes. A coach who said you weren't trying hard enough. A crowd that laughed when you stumbled. Actually, those voices leave marks, and if you don't cut them out, they become your own. You end up thinking in their language. Actually, doubting yourself in their voice, hesitating because of something someone else said 10 years ago, and you don't even realize it. The problem is, actually, the more you obey that voice, the stronger it gets. Every time you stay silent instead of speaking your truth. Most right now, what can I do that actually? Every time you say no to an opportunity because you're afraid to fail, you feed the critic. Actually, you make it your master, and over time, it doesn't even have to yell. A whisper is enough to stop you. But you are not your thoughts. Actually, you are the observer of your thoughts. Just because a thought pops into your head doesn't mean it deserves your trust. Not every thought is useful. Actually, not every thought is true. You have to learn to pause and question what that voice is saying. Ask yourself, where did this come from? Actually, whose fear am I carrying? What's the worst that could happen if I ignored this thought and did the thing anyway? Actually, there's a difference between fear and danger. Danger is real. Fear is a story. Actually, your inner critic tells you stories all day long. Stories about why you'll fail, why they won't like you, why it's too risky. Actually, and you've been believing those stories for years without fact-checking them. It's time to start fact-checking. Start talking back. Say out loud, actually, that's not true. That's not me anymore. That's an old script, and I'm done playing that role. Actually, writing your internal dialogue is not a one-time fix. It's a daily practice. You catch the voice, you challenge it, you speak something better. Most right now, what can I do that actually? Your teeth, when you're driving to work, when you're staring at the upload button and thinking about quitting. Actually, you do it again and again until your brain rewires itself to stop expecting the worst. Actually, every time you replace the critic's lie with a more empowering truth, you build a little more self-respect, a little more belief. Actually, a little more strength, and as that voice quiets down, another voice begins to rise. The one that knows you're capable, worthy, resilient. Actually, that's the voice you were born with before the world taught you to be afraid. It's still in there. You just have to choose to hear it. Actually, the inner critic is the invisible force that keeps most people stuck. Actually, it's the voice that echoes in your head when you try to take a step forward and suddenly feel paralyzed. It's not always loud, actually, and it rarely screams. Instead, it whispers just enough doubt to make you hesitate. It sounds like, what if you fail? What will they think? You're not as good as them. The problem isn't that the voice exists. It always will. Actually, the real issue is that, where it comes from or whether it's telling the truth. That critic didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was built over time. Each time someone underestimated you, judged you, embarrassed you, actually, or rejected you, that voice got louder. When you were a child, you might have raised your hand and been wrong, and someone laughed. That laugh stuck. Actually, you succeeded yourself lane. Maybe you tried something creative or bold and someone said it was dumb or unrealistic. Actually, maybe they didn't even mean harm, but you recorded it anyway. You started playing it safer, avoiding the spotlight, choosing quiet over risk. Actually, over the years, those small moments stacked on top of each other, and now you hear that voice before you even try. Actually, the most dangerous part of the inner critic is that it pretends to protect you. It convinces you that shrinking is smart, that caution is maturity. Actually, that playing small is humility. That voice isn't trying to help you grow. It's trying to keep you comfortable. That's what thrives on keeping you inside your safe zone. Every time you challenge it, it gets louder, more clever, more convincing. It reminds you of past failures. It magnifies your insecurities. It gives you reasons to stop before you've even started. Actually, and because it sounds like your own voice, you believe it. But here's the truth. Your inner critic is not you. It's a story. Actually, a story that was written over time by fear, by pain, by insecurity, and by other people's limitations. And just like any story, it can be edited. Actually, the first your voice shows up, most people let that voice run in the background like a default playlist. Actually, they don't even realize it's on. It just plays over and over again, shaping their choices and stealing their confidence without resistance. Actually, you have to start noticing the voice, slow it down, listen to what it's saying, write it down if you have to. Once you identify the voice, actually the next step is to challenge it. Ask yourself, is this true? Is there any real evidence that supports this fear? Actually, what's the worst that could happen if I hide the thing anyway? What's more likely to happen if I never try? Actually, the goal isn't to silence the voice forever. It's to stop letting it control you. You can feel fear and still take action. Actually, you can hear doubt and still move forward. Courage doesn't mean the voice is gone. Actually, it means you've learned how to move with it playing in the background. You can also replace the voice with a stronger one. Not a fake, hyped up affirmation, but a grounded truth. Instead of repeating, "I'm not good enough," say, "Actually, I'm learning and improving every day." Instead of, "I'll probably fail," try, "Even if I fail, actually, I'll figure it out." These aren't just phrases, they're reps, and the more you practice them, the stronger they become. Over time, actually, they form a new voice you instead of betrays you, one that speaks truth instead of fear. Actually, one that helps you build belief in yourself from the inside out. Confidence doesn't come from some grand transformation or overnight success story. Actually, it comes from stacking small wins over and over again until your mind has no choice but to believe in you. Actually, most people think they need to land a big opportunity or achieve something huge to feel confident, but that's not how it works. Actually, big wins are rare and unpredictable. If you rely on them to feel good about yourself, you'll spend most of your life waiting. Actually, real confidence is to show up for yourself in the smallest, most ordinary moments, the ones no one else sees. Actually, a small win could be as simple as getting out of bed when you said you would, finishing that workout when you wanted to quit. Actually, choosing to drink water instead of having soda, or writing down your goals when it feels pointless. These seem minor in the moment, actually, but every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you send a message to your brain, "I can trust me." That's the foundation of unshakable. Actually, it's not the applause or the recognition letters, it's the evidence you're collecting in private. Actually, the reason most people don't feel hard is because they've broken too many promises to themselves. They say they'll start tomorrow, actually, and don't. They say they'll eat clean and don't. They say they'll work on their dream after work, and they scroll instead. Over time, actually, this doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly through repeated patterns of self-abandonment. Actually, the more often you let yourself down, that inner voice starts to say, "See, actually never follow through." And then the cycle continues: guilt, shame, avoidance, and more broken promises. But the good news is that the cycle can be reversed. Self-trust, like confidence, is something you can rebuild. Actually, you don't need to overhaul your whole life overnight. You need to win small and win often. Pick something tiny. Actually, something you can signal without fail. Maybe it's making your bed, journaling for 5 minutes, doing 10 push-ups, actually on doing a full glass of water after waking up. Do it consistently and track it. Yes, literally write it down. Watch yourself. Keep the promise. Actually, watch your streak bill that says, "Actually, I do what I say I'll do." Less small wins becomes more powerful than motivation. Motivation fades. Life gets chaotic. But discipline builds on a foundation of small, repeatable wins, holds steady. Actually, you don't need to feel good to keep it honest to yourself. You just need to follow through. And when you follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you gain power. You prove to yourself that your word has weight, even when no one's watching. Actually, that's real confidence, not high, not ego, just quiet, steady self-respect. The best part is, these wins are under your control. Actually, you don't need luck, you don't need permission, you don't need anyone's approval to choose a task and do it well. Every time you complete one, actually, no matter how small your gain that you say has progress, you begin to look at yourself differently. You stand taller, you speak clearer. Actually, not because someone told you to, but because deep down, you've got your own back. That's what confidence is. Actually, it's not built by the moments that come and go. It's built by the quiet wins that compound into unshakable self-belief. The confidence can't grow in a place where you're constantly pretending. Actually, too many people are walking a version of themselves that isn't real. Just a costume to stay liked, to stay safe, to fit in. Actually, they say yes when they mean no. They laugh at jokes that offend them. They hide their ideas, their beliefs. Actually, their dreams because they are afraid on someone else might say. Over time, pretending becomes the norm. You forget what you actually want. Actually, you forget how to stand on your truth. You become a watered-down version of who you're meant to be, and deep down, you feel it. Actually, it doesn't just stay low, it decays. Because confidence isn't just about doing brave things. Actually, it's about knowing who you are and refusing to betray that person. Every time you silence your voice to make others comfortable, actually you weaken your foundation. Every time you pretend to be chill when something clearly bothers you, you chip away at your own strength. Actually, you think you're avoiding conflict, but you're really avoiding is growth, and the longer you avoid it, the more it costs you. Actually, the fake version of you is built on fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of standing out. But here's the problem. Actually, even when people accept that version, it doesn't feel good, because deep down, you know it's not really you they're accepting. Actually, they're accepting your mask, and that disconnect causes anxiety, frustration, even resentment. You walk through life wondering why you feel unseen. Actually, even when you're surrounded by people, it's because they've never actually met the real you. Actually, burning the fake version of yourself isn't about becoming aggressive or selfish. It's about becoming aligned. Actually, it's about play. We're built just to be accepted by others. Actually, it's about letting go of the need to be light and choosing to be real instead. When you do that, something powerful happens. You feel lighter. Actually, you feel clearer. You stop seeking validation and start living with conviction. Confidence doesn't come from being liked. Actually, it comes from being honest. It takes courage. It means admitting that you want more. It means saying things people may not expect. Actually, it means taking up space instead of shrinking to fit. It means allowing yourself to be seen fully, even when it's uncomfortable. Actually, you might lose people. You might get pushback. But what you'll gain is so much more valuable. You'll gain yourself. And once you have that, actually you're unshakable. Because no one can take away something you no longer need permission to be. Start by asking yourself hard questions. What are you pretending not to care about? What parts of yourself have you silenced to be accepted? What truth are you afraid to say out loud? Actually, answer trying to sound noble or humble. Write it down. Say it in the mirror. Actually, look yourself in the eyes and speak it like it matters, because it does. This is your life. This is your voice. Actually, and you don't get it back by staying silent. The world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs you, fully expressed, unfiltered, unapologetic. That's where your confidence lives. Not in perfection or approval, but in truth. Actually, the more honest you are about what you want, the more magnetic you become. People feel it. They may not always agree with you, actually, but they'll respect the clarity, and more importantly, you'll start respecting yourself. Confidence grows in that space, actually. Not where you're trying to blend in, but where you finally decide to stand out and stand firm in who you are. Confidence doesn't grow in comfort. Actually, it's built in the heart. This is when you want to quit, hide, or avoid, but choose to push anyway. People want to feel powerful, actually, but they spend their lives avoiding discomfort. They think confidence will magically appear once things get easier, once fear goes away, once they feel ready. But confidence doesn't show up first. Discomfort does. Fear does. Resistance does. Actually, and what separates us is one simple habit. They do hard things on purpose. Hard things aren't always dramatic. Actually, they don't have to be climbing mountains or running ultra marathons. Sometimes, a hard thing is having a conversation you've been avoiding. Actually, waking up without hitting snooze, going to the gym when no one's watching, pressing publish on the video you're insecure about. Discomfort is personal. What's easy for someone else might be terrifying for you, and that's the point. Actually, it's not about how it actually is. It's about facing the thing that your brain is telling you to skip. Every time you do, actually, you put another work into foundation of self-belief. The mind is designed to keep you safe, not strong. It tells you to avoid risk. Actually, can conserve energy, stay in the familiar. It's not trying to sabotage you. It's doing its job. but your job is to override it. Actually, your job is to train it, and training the mind works just like training the body. If you only do the easy reps, you stay weak. Actually, the only way to build strength is to embrace resistance. That means showing up when it's inconvenient, leaning in when it's scary. Actually, and pushing past the point where you'd normally tap out. That's how you grow. Doing hard things regularly reprograms your brain. Actually, it starts to expect chalet. It's asked that you'll show up, even when it's uncomfortable. That trust is confidence. Actually, it's earned through action, not theory. You can read 1,000 motivational books, but if you keep choosing easy every day, actually your self-image doesn't change. Your mind knows the truth. It knows what you do when no one's watching. Actually, and every time you choose esoteric scoreboard tilts in your favor. Most people live by emotion. If they feel motivated, actually they act. If they feel scared, they wait. But confidence isn't emotional, it's behavioral. Actually, it's deciding in advance what needs to be done and doing no matter how you feel. That builds power. It separates you from the crowd. Actually, because most people are controlled by their moods. Their life rises and falls with how they feel in the moment. Actually, but if you can build like your heart things, even when you're tired, uninspired, or afraid, you become unstoppable. Actually, not because the fear disappears, as it no longer dictates your behavior. You don't have to do something extreme to prove you're capable. Actually, you just have to do something every day on purpose. Start with small things. Take cold showers. Actually, speak up when it's easier to stay quiet. Stick to your plan when you want to bail. Push your last set at the gym. Actually, face the thing you've been avoiding. Every time you do, you're voting for the strongest version of yourself. Actually, you're training your brain to associate pain with progress instead of punishment. Over time, doing hard things becomes a part of your identity. Actually, you stop avoiding struggle and start seeking it, not because you enjoy suffering, but because you've realized that everything you want, strength, confidence, clarity, is on the other side of it. You stop asking for things to get easier and start asking to get stronger. Actually, that shift changes everything. You stop shrinking from life and start showing up with a mindset that says, actually, throw it at me, I'll figure it out. And that mindset, more than any talent or background, is what makes someone truly confident. Actually, confidence isn't just built from within. It's also something that's shaped by who you're surrounded by. Actually, your environment matters more than most people realize. You could be working hard, pushing through fear, doing the reps every day. Actually, well, if it is most eternally in growth, if they mock your ambition, if they doubt your dreams, their energy becomes your ceiling. Actually, you start questioning yourself not because you've changed, but because their disbelief becomes the voice in your head. At your circle either sharpens you or softens you. It either fuels your fire or quietly snuffs it out. Actually, most people are scared to look at relationships. Actually, they don't want to admit that the friends they've had for years are holding them back. Actually, they don't want to confront that comfort and loyalty aren't the same thing. You might have people around you who've known you forever. Actually, but if they only support the old version of you, they can't help you grow into who you're becoming. It's a tough truth. Actually, but growth requires honesty. You can't become the most confident, capable version of yourself while constantly explaining, defending, actually, or minimizing your evolution to people who aren't ready to grow with you. When someone around you is constantly negative, always playing the victim, actually always joking about how it ever works out, that mindset is contagious. You might think you're immune to it, but no one is. Actually, energy rubs off. Conversations shape beliefs. If everyone around you expects failure, complains about life, and mocks discipline, actually, you'll start questioning your drive. You'll start making excuses for your progress so you don't make them uncomfortable. Actually, you'll start dimming your light to their insecurities. That's how potential dies, quietly through compromise. Now think about the actually. Think about what happens when you spend time around people who are moving, building, trying, learning, pushing. Actually, their energy pulls you up. They don't energy be perfect or wildly successful. They just need to be in motion. Actually, when you see someone release a video, launch a project, or simply say no to a distraction, it inspires you to do the same. You stop feeling like the only one with goals. You stop shrinking to fit in. Actually, you start expanding because you're not the exception, you're the standard. Confidence grows faster when it's mirrored back to you. Actually, that means being around people who see your potential, speak to your strengths, and aren't threatened by your success. These people challenge you, not because they doubt you, but because they expect more from you. Actually, they remind you of who you said you wanted to be when you start slipping into your old habits. They don't let you play small. Actually, not because they're trying to control you, but because they believe in you too deeply to let you settle. Those people are rare. When you find them, actually, keep them till you find them. You might need to make space. That means letting go of relationships that have expired. Actually, it means stepping back from people who make you feel drained, defensive, or small. It doesn't always have to be dramatic. Sometimes, actually, it's just distance, less time, fewer conversations, more boundaries. Other times, it's a full cut. You know who they are, you've felt it. Actually, you've ignored it. But if you're serious about resetting your confidence, you can't ignore it anymore. Actually, you are not responsible for everyone's comfort. You are responsible for your growth. That means choosing people who reflect the kind of mindset, actually, habits and standards you're working to live by. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. Actually, surround yourself with people where you want to go. Not the ones who pull you back to who you used to be, actually, but the ones who push you forward into who meant to become. Most people are terrified of failure, not because they can't handle it, actually, but because they've been taught to associate failure with shame. Somewhere along the way, society turned mistakes into something personal. Actually, you fail a test, and it doesn't mean you got the answers wrong. It means you're not smart. You bomb a presentation, actually, and it doesn't mean you had an off day. It means you're not cut out for leadership. Actually, this mindset turns failure into something to avoid at all costs. And when you avoid failure, you avoid effort. You play safe. Actually, you only try things you're already good at. You stick to what's familiar, even if it's slowly killing your ambition. Actually, confidence doesn't grow in safety. It grows when you're willing to take a swing knowing you might miss. Actually, it grows when your success isn't guaranteed. Actually, the most confident people aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who've failed so many times that it doesn't scare them anymore. Actually, they've detached their self-worth from the outcome. They've learned how to see failure as feedback, not as a reflection of who they are. Actually, setback becomes data. Instead of avoiding the pain, they use it to sharpen themselves. Actually, think about a child learning to walk. They fall constantly, over and over again. They don't care who's watching. Actually, they don't give up after one bad step. They just get up and try again. That's what raw confidence looks like. But as we grow older, actually, we stop tolerating failure. We stop hating quickly. We hesitate more. We start overthinking, overanalyzing. Actually, and trying to control every outcome we even begin. Eventually, we forget how to fall forward. We forget that progress comes through mistakes. Actually, not in spite of them. Failure is part of every success story. You don't hear about most of them because the wins are what get posted, shared, and celebrated. But behind every viral is 100 that didn't take off. Behind every best-selling author is a stack of rejected manuscripts. Actually, behind every winning lolling is a history of quiet struggle. The world only sees the highlight reel. Actually, a people who keep showing up, who keep failing forward, know the real story. They've trained themselves to treat failure like fuel. Actually, if you want to reset your happiness, to change how you see setbacks, a failed business launch doesn't mean you're not an entrepreneur. Actually, a video that flops doesn't mean you're not a creator. A relationship that ends doesn't mean you're not lovable. Those are moments, actually not verdicts. When you stop attaching meaning to your failures, you give yourself freedom to try again. you learn to recover faster. Actually, you get back in the arena instead of sitting in the stands. One of the most powerful things you can do is celebrate your failures. Actually, not with fake positivity. When something doesn't go your way, pause and ask, what did I learn? Actually, what can I grow from this? That shift turns every mistake into momentum. Actually, it rewires your brain to associate failure with progress instead of punishment. And when you start collecting those lessons, actually, you realize that failing is not the opposite of winning, it's part of it. Confidence isn't built by winning every time. Actually, it's built by behind a person who keeps showing up, keeps learning, keeps swinging, no matter what happened last time. That consistency. Actually, that resilience, he's stepping up even after a fall. That's where the real belief comes from. Actually, that's how you become unshakable, not by avoiding failure, but by turning it into your training ground. Actually, Hanf isn't just about how well you speak or how many achievements you stack up. It's about clarity. Actually, it's about knowing you are when everything else gets quiet. In today's world, most people can't hear themselves think. Actually, their confidence is built on noise, likes, comments, comparisons, validation from strangers. They feel good when they get attention, and they crash when the attention fades. That kind of confidence isn't real, it's rented. It disappears the moment people stop clapping. Actually, if your belief in yourself only exists when others approve of you, it's not belief, it's dependency. The noise is everywhere. Actually, you scroll social lead wins, see filtered perfection and non-stop content. You measure your value against highlight reels. Actually, you start to believe that you're not doing enough, that everyone else has it figured out. Actually, you feel this in to show up, to always be doing something impressive. Actually, but that pressure isn't coming from truth, it's coming from noise. And as long as you live in that noise, your confidence will be fragile. Actually, it will go up and down with every view count, every comment, every like, every trend. Actually, the only way to reset a shaky confidence is to step away from the noise and get back to yourself. Actually, not the version of you that sits without an audience. The one that's still there when the phone is off. Actually, the followers are quiet and the metrics don't matter. That version of you holds all the answers. It's just been drowned out by distraction. Actually, the longer you avoid solitude, the longer you stay confused about who you really are. You have to disconnect in order to reconnect. Actually, that might mean tilling a for a day, deleting apps for a week, or spending time each morning without a screen in sight. Actually, it means journaling your thoughts without trying to sound impressive. Actually, it might mean sitting in silence until a discomfort fades and your real thoughts start to show up. In the silence, the truth gets louder. Actually, you start to see what actually matters to you, not what you've been told to want, not what's trending, but what feels honest, what feels right. Actually, clarity brings power, and hopefully clarity. When you're clear on who you are, actually you stop needing everyone else to tell you. You stop chasing approval because you're already aligned. You stop over-explaining, overcompensating, actually overperforming. You stop comparing because you realize no one else can run your race. Actually, that's the difference in outer confidence and inner confidence. Outer confidence is a mask. It looks good but breaks easily. Actually, inner confidence is rooted. It says steady no matter what's happening around you. Getting to that place requires discomfort. As the silence will feel awkward at first, you'll reach for distractions out of habit. But if you can sit through that, actually, you'll notice something shift. Your thoughts will settle, your anxiety will soften, your values will rise to the surface. And from that place, actually, you'll see what matters to you, start making better as it matters to you, not because you want validation. You'll speak from truth. Actually, not from fear. You'll win at a question. That's when confidence becomes real. Actually, when it's not based on what you do are without the noise. Confidence doesn't require applause. Actually, it doesn't require constant output. It doesn't even require being seen. It just requires connection. deep, honest connection with yourself. Actually. And that connection can't be built while you're distracted, chasing, or performing. Actually, it can only be built in where you finally stop trying to prove and start learning how to simply be. In that stillness, you find something solid, and once you find it, actually you realize it was never about becoming more. It was about remembering what's always been there underneath the noise. Actually, confidence isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build by aligning your actions with your future identity. Actually, most people think they need to feel confident before they act. They wait until they're ready, until they believe in themselves, actually until they're no longer afraid. But that mindset keeps them stuck. Confidence doesn't come before action, it's the result of action. Actually, the truth is you can be decided to become, but only if you're willing to start acting like that version of yourself today. Actually, not someday. This is an imagination. It's about living now as the person you're becoming, not just thinking about them. Actually, picture the strongest, less honey version of yourself, the one who speaks boldly, takes action without hesitation, sets boundaries, actually shows up consistently and doesn't waste time doubting. That version of you already exists in potential. Actually, you've seen glimpses when you were brave, focused, driven. The problem is, actually, you treat that version like a distant goal instead of a daily guide. You keep them at arm's length. Actually, saying things like one day I'll be like that or once I've figured things out. But waiting doesn't bring them any closer. Actually, action does. The fastest way to let Hassan is to ask one question and act on the answer. What would future me do? Actually, let us have a decision. When you want to hit snooze, you ask, would future me get up or sleep in? When you're afraid to post content or speak up, you ask, had future me let fear win or take the shot? That's how you shift your default behavior. Actually, you stop reacting from your past and start responding from your future. You start building a bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. Actually, one decision at a time, and every time you follow through, your self-image starts to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and fails, actually, and you start seeing yourself as up regardless of the outcome. This is the difference between inspiration and transformation. Actually, inspiration feels good, but it fades fast. Transformation sticks because it's rooted in behavior. You don't need more motivation to be 100%. You need evidence. Actually, and the less right like the version of yourself you respect, admire, and want to grow into. Not when it's easy. Actually, not when the stars align, but right now, especially when it's hard, especially when you don't feel like it. That's what makes it real. Actually, that's what rewires your identity. You won't get it perfect. You'll fall short. You'll have moments where you revert to old habits, old fears. Actually, old thinking, that's normal, but instead of beating yourself up, you realign. You ask the question again, what would future me do now? Actually, and then the repetition builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds self-respect. Actually, and self-respect this way with everything, you start to trust yourself. You stop overthinking. You stop negotiating with fear. Actually, you stop explaining who you are and just live it. Most people are hoping for a breakthrough moment that changes their life. Actually, but the real breakthrough is you don't need a moment, you need a pattern. A pattern of consistently acting like the person you're becoming. Actually, even before you feel like them, especially before you feel like them, confidence is built in that space. Actually, where fear is present, action still happens. Where doubt exists but doesn't decide. That's how you build belief that sticks. Actually, not because someone told you who you are, but because you've proven it through how you show up day after day. And you stop performing a version of confidence and start embodying the real thing. Not later, now. Actually, there comes a point in your journey where you stop chasing confidence and start becoming it. Actually, not because you've eliminated fear or because life suddenly gets easier, but because you've built a solid foundation no one else can shake. Actually, that shift happens. It's not loud or flashy. It's not some epic celebration. It's quiet. It's steady. Actually, It shows up in how you speak your truth, how you carry yourself when things don't go your way. Actually, real confidence isn't something you perform, it's something you embody. And the most powerful version of it is the kind that can't be taken. Actually, most people spend their lives tying it to external things like status, income, applause, achievements. Actually, as long as those things are going well, they feel good. But the moment something slips, they crash. Actually, their confidence shatters because it was never rooted in who they are. It was built on conditions. If they win, they feel strong. If they lose, actually, they feel worthless. This kind of conditional confidence is dangerous because it's fragile. Actually, it puts your emotional state in the hands of other people, trends, and circumstances you can't control. True confidence is built differently. Actually, it's built in the dark, in the quiet, in the moments when no one is watching. It's built when you show up for yourself on the hard days. Actually, when you keep promises to yourself even when it's inconvenient. When you look in the mirror and know you've done the work. Actually, whether or not anyone else sees it. That kind of confidence comes from character, not performance. Actually, it's not tied to a win or a title. It's tied to integrity. You trust yourself because you've earned it, not because the world has approved it. Actually, life will test you. You'll have seasons where nothing seems to work. You'll lose things. People will doubt you. You'll doubt yourself. Actually, what if your confidence away? Those things won't destroy you. They might shake you, but they won't break you. Actually, because you've built your life on something deeper than image. You've built it on effort, on truth, on facing fear and choosing growth anyway. Actually, on failing and rising anyway. That's the kind of confidence that doesn't flinch when the world gets loud. Actually, it stays rooted because it was never about being seen. It was about being solid. This kind of inner certainty changes everything. Actually, it changes how you respond to setbacks. You stop seeing failure as evidence that you're not enough and start seeing it as part of the process. Actually, you stop being controlled by opinions, rejection, or silence. You move with a kind of calm strength. You know you don't have to chase approval. Actually, because your worth isn't up for debate, you don't have to convince anyone. You just keep showing up, doing the work, staying aligned with who you say you are. That's what makes confidence unshakable. Not that you never question yourself. Actually, but that you know how to do that to center, but that you always win, but that you know how to move forward after a loss. Actually, not that everyone believes in you, but that you've stopped needing them to. This is what the confidence reset has really been about. Actually stripping away the noise, rewiring your habits, rebuilding your mind, and in the process becoming someone who doesn't just act confident, actually, but less as heterolith in who they are becoming. The world may not always understand it, but you will, and that's enough. Actually, confidence isn't just a state of mind, it's a daily choice. It's not something you earn once and then coast on for life. Actually, it's something you show up for over and over again, especially when it's the last thing you feel. Actually, lustly is lying, a place they'll get to once they've hit their goals, improved their body, actually launched their business. A launched mindset turns confidence into a destination that always stays out of reach. Actually, you don't become confident by arriving. You become confident by deciding every single day to act like someone who believes in themselves. It starts small. Most days won't be inspiring. Some days you'll wake up tired, drained, anxious, or uncertain. Actually, you'll have a long list of reasons to procrastinate, to hide, to back down. But those are the days that matter most. Actually, those are the days that pick up out confidence from those who build it. Because showing up when you feel like it is easy. Actually, showing up when you don't is where your identity gets built. When you push through resistance, even in tiny ways. Actually, you prove to yourself that you're reliable. That you're not controlled by mood, fear, or doubt. That you can be trusted with your own potential. Actually, most people think they need to feel good to act, but the truth is action creates the feeling. Confidence is a byproduct of discipline. Actually, when you do the thing, especially when it's hard, your brain takes note. It logs the effort. It records the choice. Actually, it begins to associate you with strength, with consistency, with courage. Actually, and that evidence begins to override the old story that says you're not ready, not enough, not capable. Actually, the story begins to shift because you've given it something new to believe. You don't have to do something massive to reset your confidence. Actually, it's not about grand gestures or life-changing events. It's about small intentional acts that stack up. Speaking up in a meeting, hitting the gym even when you're tired, posting the content even when you're nervous, saying no when you used to say yes just to keep the peace. Actually, these moments build muscle. They aren't always seen or celebrated, but they matter. Over time, they become your new standard. Actually, you stop negotiating with fear and start expecting more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of respect. You begin to live differently. Actually, you stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop shrinking to fit the room. You start making decisions based on your values, not your insecurities. Actually, you show up like someone who deserves a seat at the table because deep down, you know you do. Actually, and awaken comes from effort, not ego. It's unshakable. That's when confidence becomes something you carry, not something you chase. Actually, even on the hardest days, you'll still feel doubt. That voice might still whisper, but it won't run your life anymore. Actually, you'll have built something stronger than fear. You'll have built discipline, resilience, self-trust. Actually, and those are the things has really laid off. You'll stop asking if you're ready and start acting like it. Actually, you'll stop waiting for permission and start giving it to yourself. The reset isn't a one-time event. Actually, it's a mindset you return to again and again. It's a decision to keep going, even when progress is slow. Actually, even when you're not sure it's working. It's about waking up each day and choosing to be the version of yourself who doesn't flinch. Actually, doesn't fold, doesn't fade into the background. Because that version of you is always available. And every time you choose them, actually you make them more real. You the confidence you once only dreamed about, not someday today, and then you do it again tomorrow. Actually, confidence isn't magic. It's not reserved for a select few. It's not something you're born with or without. It's a pattern, a mindset, a daily choice. And when you understand the mechanics behind it, how it works, where it breaks, actually, and how to rebuild it, you realize that unshakable belief in yourself is within reach. Here are the 3 most important, actually life-changing lessons from this jelly that will stay with you forever if you let them. 1. Confidence is a skill you train. Actually, not a trait you inherit. One literally stuck hit people. Stuck is the belief that confidence is a personality trait, something you either have or don't. But that couldn't be further from the actually. Confidence is not genetic, it's built through behavior. Just like you train your body at the gym, actually, you train your confidence, discipline, and deliberate discomfort. The most confident people you know weren't born that way. Actually, they became that way by facing fear consistently and proving to themselves that they could handle it. Actually, what stops most people of building real confidence is the belief that they need to feel ready before they act. But the truth is, actually, you'll never feel ready at the beginning. Action always comes first. The feeling follows. You don't wait until you're fearless to make the call. Actually, say or speak your truth. You do it scared, and when you do, you gain the one thing that creates true confidence. Actually, evidence. You start stacking small wins, collecting proof that you're capable, and over time, those wins rewrite your identity. Actually, you stop asking if not acting like you already do. Actually, that's how confidence becomes who you are, not just something you borrow in moments of courage. 2. Actually, you must let go of the fake version of yourself to become the real one of the hardest. Actually, this is learning to stop performing. Actually, so many people live their lives trying to be others expect them to be. They water themselves down to be more liked. Actually, they mute their ambition to avoid judgment. They hide their real voice, their real dreams, their real power to keep the peace. Actually, there's an I do that huss you. You cannot fake your way into self-respect. Actually, the confidence begins the moment you decide to stop apologizing for who you are. Actually, it begins when you stop shrinking for approval and start standing in your truth. That doesn't mean being aggressive or arrogant. Actually, it means being aligned. It means showing up in your raw, honest, unfiltered self, even when it's uncomfortable. Actually, even when it costs you a sincere, built on a version of you that wasn't real. Actually, the confidence reset demands that you let go of who you think you're supposed to be so you can step into who you actually are. Actually, when you stop pretending, you stop negotiating with fear. That's where your real strength lives. 3. Actually, do hard things daily. That's where confidence is forged. Nothing builds confidence faster than doing hard things on purpose. Actually, not because you enjoy pain, but because every act of discipline chips away at doubt. Actually, every time you choose discomfort, whether it's waking up early, having the tough conversation, hitting publish, actually, or staying consistent with your bills, you train your brain to associate fear with growth, not danger. Actually, you rewire your nervous system to know that it can survive challenge, and over time, the things that once scared you become normal. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Doing hard things builds resilience. Resilience builds self-respect. Actually, and zealous people avoid pain and wonder why they don't trust themselves. The truth is, that trust is built in the fire. You don't get stronger by avoiding struggle. You get stronger by moving through it. Actually, and when you become the kind of person who does hard things daily, confidence stops being something you chase and starts being something you carry. Actually, please think about confidence, but how you live. Because at the end of the day, confidence is a decision. Actually, and it's yours to make again and again, a bold step at a time. Real life applications. Actually, how to apply the confidence reset in daily life. Reading about confidence is one thing, living it is another. Actually, the ideas in the Hunter set are powerful, but they only change your life when you put them into action, repeatedly, in the ordinary, actually unglamorous moments of your day. Confidence doesn't show up all at once. It's built through small, actually, consistent decisions that reshape the way you think, move, speak, and show up. Here's how to apply the core lessons in your real everyday life. Actually, start with small promises and keep them every morning. Give yourself 3 simple, achievable promises. These could be things like, actually, drink a full glass of water, complete a 10-minute workout, spend 5 minutes journaling, or speak up once during a team meeting. Actually, these are not random habits, they're evidence. When you keep these micro promises, you start shifting your identity. Actually, you stop being someone who doubts and start being someone who delivers. If you break a promise, don't spiral. Actually, just reset and start again the next day. A goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Actually, use what would future me do as a daily filter every time you hit a decision point, whether it's waking up or hitting snooze. Actually, eating junk food or choosing fuel, scrolling or creating. Pause and ask, what would the most confident version of me do right now? Actually, this simple helpful because it forces you to think beyond the emotion of the moment and align with your long-term identity. Actually, the more you act like the future for yourself today, the faster you become them. You begin to build confidence not just from what you do, actually, but who you become. Daily discomfort. Pick one thing every day that makes you uncomfortable and do it. Call the person. Actually, share the post. Speak your truth. Ask for the opportunity. Start the task you've been avoiding. Actually, these daily reps of courage train your nervous system to tolerate fear without folding. Over time, actually, thin heals as you start to feel normal. When you condition yourself to face discomfort head on, actually, confidence becomes your default, not because fear is gone, but because it no longer controls you. Actually, audit your circle and protect your energy. Look closely at who you spend the most time with. Friends, coworkers, family, online voices. Actually, are they challenging you to grow or keeping you in a loop of doubt and stagnation? If someone constantly drains you, minimizes your dreams, actually, or subtly mocks your ambition, create space. That doesn't mean you cut everyone off overnight. Actually, but it does mean protecting their mindset like it is sacred, because it is. Surround yourself with people who normalize self-improvement. actually, who celebrate your wins and who remind you of who you're becoming. Create a confidence evidence log each night. Actually, write down 3 things you did that showed courage, discipline, or alignment. It could be speaking up when you felt nervous, actually completing a workout you didn't feel like doing, or setting a boundary. This habit builds internal evidence. When doubt creeps in, actually, you have a log that reminds you you've done hard things before, you'll do them again. This practice reconditions your brain to focus on progress, not perfection, and reinforces a self-image rooted in strength. Actually, practice expression even when it's uncomfortable, when you feel yourself holding back, whether it's in a conversation, on social media, mostly, or in your creative work, and lean in. Say the thing, write the post, ask the question. Confidence grows when you stop diluting yourself. Speak with clarity and let go of needing to be liked by everyone. The more you express your real thoughts, values, and ideas, actually, the stronger yourself becomes. Telling is uncomfortable at first, but it's also liberating. Actually, unplug weekly to hear your own voice. Once a week, spend at least 1 hour away from all screens. No phone, no notifications, no noise. Actually, just a journal, a walk, or a quiet space. Here's this time to check in. What am I proud of? What am I avoiding? What do I really want? Actually, here he's high builds confidence. You stop drifting through life reacting to everything and start living with intention. That actually it lives in these small daily choices. You don't need more hype, you need more practice. Actually, and when you apply these habits consistently, a belief in yourself becomes something no one can touch. Actually, conclusion and call to action. Make it to the end of the confidence reset. But this is where your real reset begins. Not in theory. Actually, not in hype, but in your next decision. You've just read the truth most people will never hear. Actually, that confidence isn't something you're born with or something you wait for. It's something you build, step by step, choice by choice, rep by rep. No more waiting for permission, no more hiding behind fear. Actually, you've got everything you need right now to become the version of yourself that walks boldly, speaks clearly, creates freely, and leads fearlessly. Actually, not someday, today. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about stripping away the doubt, the noise, the fear, actually, and finally stepping into who you were always meant to be. The world needs more real, raw, grounded confidence. Not performance, not perfection. You. Actually, so here's your challenge. Start today. Make the hard choice. Keep one small promise. Speak the truth. Show up when it's uncomfortable. Actually, live like you're as they are. If this book lit a fire in you, if you felt seen most right now, what can I do? That unshakable belief in yourself. Don't let the momentum stop here.